Welcome back to the Awakener podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Awakener. Before we begin on a new show, I just wanted to advise you, go to my website, theawakener.ca. Once again, you can subscribe there. You can follow me on Instagram. You can read my material. I'll do my best to explain to you what is going on in the world and why things are so crazy and what is actually happening. I got Double Wide with me, my producer. We're going to go into the latest news, theories, and all kinds of stuff. Double Wide, how are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Good. What's new with you?
Well, you know what? Big move this week, and sorry to everybody for delayed shows last week, and a shout out to Amanda for pointing it out. But trust me, lots of content coming. So if you don't subscribe, go to theawakener.ca and subscribe and support the show for many reasons, such as the news won't tell you stuff that you'll find out here.
There you go. There's obviously something very devious that's going on in the world. At the Awakener, we try to put everything together. It doesn't say we know everything. We don't know everything. We appreciate input for everyone. Comment on all our videos or send me an email. But let's get started.
Okay.
So the latest news. You want to go into Twitter files?
I'm a little weirded out by. I'm trying to understand what is happening. We find out that basically the New York Post had a story ready to go about Biden's laptop debacle.
Right.
The saga, as we like to refer to it here.
The saga.
And, Twitter was they were approached by the government and asked to quash it and turn it down on Twitter. And that became obvious through this. But now it makes me think that may not even be true. Because what are the possibilities that we're going to find out that the government actually turned this down to a major news source? And by the way, the White House hasn't commented on it.
I don't expect the White House to comment on any of this, to be honest with you. Joe Biden took out a loan, I don't know if you saw, for $250,000. How do you think that plays into all this?
I guess he's got to get some lawyers lined up. Is that the deal?
Well, I imagine that lawyers probably cost more than $250,000. A retainer, I think, would be about $1 million for a case like this.
What's he doing with this money then?
Well, I'm sure he's raising capital, right? Because he's going to need it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to me, the writing's on the wall. I mean, the writing's been on the wall for Hunter Biden for quite some time. You don't buy a gun and try to off yourself unless something serious is going on. So the media is prepping everybody. Unfortunately, the truth is going to come out. It's not that serious. But it's really interesting with the Twitter files. They're really controlling the narrative because the Hunter Biden case is going to basically, like we told everyone, open the Pandora's box. People are going to understand that there is a conspiracy that is working against the West. This conspiracy, the communist conspiracy, is the New World Order. Everyone likes to blame the U.S. for this. Listen, the U.S. has their own agenda, their own belief system, the way they do war. They have their own firms that engage in war and stuff like that. This is a completely different conversation. This is the yin and the yang. That exists, and then the communist conspiracy exists, and they're both at fight or war with each other. In the case of Hunter Biden, the clock is basically ticking right now. So Joe Biden, get this, Double Wide. Joe Biden has how much time in office left?
I don't know how much time he has. I don't even know that it's really him anymore. What's he, 2 years?
Yeah, so I would imagine that a president of the United States probably does not get charged. But the writing will be on the wall because his son, I think, will get charged. And when Joe Biden leaves office, it's going to open a whole can of worms for him if he's voted out. So we're going to really have something major happen within the next 2 years, my prediction. You look at what Russia's happening. You look at what Twitter was doing with the reason they're quashing everything is because this is a controlled drip of information.
I actually think that that's what Twitter is all about now. I think that Elon Musk got in there just in time to point out to us, hey, look, we're being really everything's being edited around us. It's not even narrative,
right?
It's actual agenda at this point. Who do we want to hear from most in this world that everything's okay? Well, we want to hear it from our government. We don't want to hear that they're embroiled in some terrible conspiracy where somebody's kid is acting out in greed and putting the nation at high alert at all times right now.
Right.
I honestly think that whole supply chain of information that Biden was, I believe, tunneling to China, tunneling to Russia, has been hugely detrimental in economic negotiation, war negotiation, It's created powerhouses out there and power relationships between countries we don't want hanging out together.
Right. Well, this is the thing, right? So the Hunter Biden case, I think, is going to be so controversial and so in regards to national security that the general population is almost not allowed to know about it in full context yet. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because how it affects things on so many levels. I'm not going to say the truth is not going to come out, but Twitter censoring the news, like there's national security is at play here for the West and what is happening and what has happened with Hunter Biden and Barack Obama's presidency, that there might not be a choice for us to have a war. I mean, we talked about this right before we started the show. Donald Trump recently just talked about having gets baby bonuses.
He wants a baby boom.
He wants a
baby boom.
So this is in direct regards to Vladimir Putin about 6-7 months ago passing laws in Russia where they give money, to women who have 10 babies or more.
What about this? They're releasing prisoners, like really bad prisoners, to the Wagner Group, right? As well. Then you take a look in the U.S., and there are military measures being put into place. Already, you can see the U.S. is thinking, oh, man, we are going to be short on military staffing and soldiers and frontline soldiers. All right, let's start rehabilitation programs in our private prison systems.
Right. And the whole context of this is that people want to know the truth. So Trump gets elected, first day, okay, tell us the truth. Tell us what's going on. The problem is they can't tell you what's going on. They can't tell you what's going on because it affects national security on such a great level that the general population doesn't need to really know about this until shit hits the fan, basically. I hate to say it. Look how paranoid people were when COVID first came over. Do you remember that, though? Why people there's no toilet paper. Everyone was in a panic, right? If the general population knew, like I've said this before, if you knew that an asteroid was coming to wipe out the planet in 3 years' time, do you believe that they would tell you?
I don't think that there is.
So if you knew that
any way that they would,
if you knew the world's greatest war was about to explode on you, would they tell you?
But mostly we are used to seeing signs of that in the news. We're used to, especially in this era, getting instantaneous updates on what's happening in places around the world where war is happening.
Right.
Now,
you can't hear about it on our own soil.
You can't even trust what you're... I mean, AI was the other thing that I wanted to bring up. This week, 4 or 5 AI mishaps have happened in the world where major figures in media have been completely misrepresented. I hear Joe Rogan even got nailed with somebody. A fake Elon Musk interview with Joe Rogan came out. That was just one of them. The rest, where are we with this? I don't even know if we see Joe Biden anymore. Is that really him?
Right.
How close are we actually getting to this guy who's so lucid at times and at other times just not really there at all?
Well, in the case of technology can be used for good purposes, and it can be used to exploit a general population. In the case of Joe Biden right now, we talked about this on the podcast, that Joe Biden is the ultimate illusion, which means that China and Russia both are willing to do COVID, and the blackmailed politicians in our government were willing to ride COVID to our economic doom. And the U.S., on the other hand, has their own agenda, which is you never know if a deal has already been signed. Like $250,000 for Joe Biden is not that much money for a retainer for lawyers. Is there some kind of deal already been cut where maybe he does less time or Hunter Biden does less time in return for cooperation? Because you have to understand something. The truth coming out is going to change everything for our enemies. Once our enemies are found out and this conspiracy is found out, they're not going to be able to have us anymore under the table. They're successful because the way they operate is through disinformation and lies and passing an agenda toward us that we don't fully understand. If they can't lie to us, if they have to be honest about what they want, then they probably are not going to have us. This is what the balance of what is happening right now is so monumental. It's not just a tax evasion problem, that there's almost no way to get truthful information right now because both sides are using Hunter Biden and Joe Biden to manipulate outcome right now. So the West is basically at peril, right? We went over this in Barack Obama's presidency. Rogue regimes have now gotten technology and advancements and our own uranium and COVID and a whole bunch of things because the U.S. government has given it to them, that there's no choice but to have a war. If there's no choice but to have a war, there's no point saving the economic currency. There's no point saving anything, really. It's all about if the war has to happen, we have to end up on top, which is specifically why baby or repopulation laws, both sides are talking about it right now, and nobody's figuring this out.
Yeah, normally a baby boom is something you want after war. You don't want to incite more babies being born during a time of war, because certainly with the baby bonus, only because you expect war to be over and you can't really afford that while you're trying to put military action in place in other places. But it's just really weird to me that in 2 years, Trump could be back in office and he'll be talking baby bonuses. Why is he anticipating that now? Does he know something that we don't know?
Well,
will a war come and go so quickly? Will another virus come and go so quickly that we need to repopulate? Or is he really just talking about, is he making that a threatening move and talking about, there is definitely an aging population in North America that has gone unaddressed for a long time because people can't afford it. You can't afford to have babies in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s and the 2030s, I'm sure. So what can we do about repopulating the planet in a positive way? Well, baby bonuses has always worked. Or is he anticipating that we will already be in a place of replenished by the time he comes back into office if he was elected?
Right. When this is what we've talked about all the time, is this information, what is really happening underneath the scenes, is not being openly discussed by either side for whatever reasons, because it affects national security so gravely. And by now, you have to know something's wrong. You have to know something's very, very wrong right now. But no side is really giving you a complete story. And the reason no side is giving you a complete story is because, like, look at the signals, right? When Vladimir Putin says, you know, we're gonna have baby population laws or replenishment laws, and then Trump says the same thing. The context of what is happening is just signaling between everyone. Everyone knows what is really going on here. Jeffrey Epstein was a KGB agent. His father, Robert Maxwell, met with Gorbachev. These people are extorting a vast network of very prominent people that affect our agenda and our society in the West. And these people are passing an agenda for communism. They're benefiting our enemies, whether it be climate change, you know, all this oppressed versus oppressor and all this uber obsession with racism and turning men into women, or whatever the case. These prominent figures in religion, in technology, all over the planet are being coerced. And if you don't believe it by now, just like, you know, do some research on Yandex and that search engine. Like,
it's the porn highway.
It's the child porn highway.
Yeah.
And you know, they have no interest in stopping it at Yandex. And this is what they're feeding their addictions. They're providing for them. In return, they're being blackmailed. And this agenda, if you haven't figured it out now, Hillary was the one who was being blackmailed. And she was going to have this war pinned on her presidency. And now this war is going to happen because our enemies, these Marxists, these communists, have been so close to getting us. This is the closest they've ever been. And there has to be a war. So the other side is not telling you this because they don't want you to freak out. They don't want you to panic. They don't want you to know the full truth yet. They might tell you eventually. You're going to learn eventually. But it's going to be very obvious that something wrong is happening because there's no point telling you. There's no point telling you the magnitude of the situation because it's going to be catastrophic.
Well, it's already done so much to the economy. You know, and by the way, catastrophic to the whole world now is what's the next virus, right? Which I think in a lot of ways has been an amazing distraction while incredible weaponry has been developed in the background using all of the, look at the supply chain problems we have coming out of Asia to supply us with anything. Do you think they're short on any supply to create military weapons, military grade vehicles?
No.
No, definitely their supply
chain.
I'm
going to interrupt you for a second. Look at Putin, for example, right? So Putin is going around the world right now showing off all this fancy military technology, all the latest stuff, right? And then Ukraine is happening, and they're just wasting lives, and they're wasting all these old tanks that they have in this war. Meanwhile, he's going around showing all the latest tech. You know, like it's beyond me how people listen. I like Trump. I think he's a great guy. I'm not saying that I endorse any politician,
buddies?
whatever.
You guys hanging out now?
But
do you golf? You and Trump?
I wish.
You
But
been to Mar-a-Lago?
I'm just telling you that I don't. People have got to know that something shady is going on, and the truth is not being told to us for a specific reason.
Hey, let's dive deeper on the Hillary Epstein thing on the Patreon.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Hey, by the way, last week you referred to it as what is it? The pay sites, your OnlyFans.
It's my OnlyFans.
It's not OnlyFans. You're not on OnlyFans. You're on Patreon. But if you want the OnlyFans,
but I'm saying it's better than an OnlyFans.
I don't know about that.
It's cheaper and it's more productive than an OnlyFans.
All right,
let's
see you
hope.
on the other side. Thank you.